So, you guys have been asking me for a very long time to review the Wheel of Time books and rank them, put them in a list from A to F. I don't have that quite exactly. I have S to D because this is the popular YouTube ranking thing. And we're going to go through and we're going to rank each and every Wheel of Time book in one take. We're just going to go for it. Now, the ranking here is S, A, B, C, D. And this is my own personal taste. People are just going to disagree with me. That's fine. Now, I want to keep you all to keep in mind that for the ranking here, S is not greatest book of all time, and D is not worst book of all time. S is best Wheel of Time book, and D is worst Wheel of Time book. So if I put something in D, I'm not saying it's a bad book. I'm saying comparatively to the rest of the Wheel of Time, it's not up to par. So yeah, I don't think any of the books are horrible. I'm just that's where it goes in this system here. Beyond that, I can put multiple in S, I can put multiple in D, I can put multiple anywhere, and without any further talking, any more me yelling at the camera, let's just go ahead and rank the Wheel of Time. All the books. I even have New Spring here at the end. And we're going to start with The Eye of the World. We're going to go ahead and jump on in here. Where do I think The Eye of the World falls when it comes to ranking? Personally here, it's not S tier. It's not the absolute best of the Wheel of Time. That's reserved for a select few, though I do think The Eye of the World is a magnificent book. The biggest criticism it gets is it's certainly a retread of a lot of Tolkien things. Pretty much anyone who's read Tolkien who then picks up The Eye of the World goes, wow, this is Tolkien's formula. But because Robert Jordan set out to do that in interviews, he said, I read Tolkien, I loved it, but I wanted to take my actual more realistic spin on it. I'm personally not going to mark him down for that. And I'm going to go ahead and put The Eye of the World in the A tier of Wheel of Time. It's a great entry to the world, really gets you known to the characters, wonderful introduction to the magic systems and the lore. I'm all about it. So me personally, I'm saying Eye of the World on my list is A tier. Now, next up we have The Great Hunt. An interesting turn from The Eye of the World, in my opinion. We introduced these chase heist elements that go on. It's a little bit darker, a lot more mysterious. It feels more dangerous than The Eye of the World does at times, especially with our party being separated. There's a couple flaws here and there, a couple things that didn't work perfectly for me. But these early books, God, there's a reason we all fell in love with the series so strong so early on. So I'm going to go ahead and say solid A tier. The Great Hunt, definite A tier list. Following that up, though, we have The Dragon Reborn, which for me was interesting because we have this crazy turn for Rand. He's now way darker, off on his own. We hardly get any of this main character, and it was Robert Jordan signaling to the reader that this fantasy world is going to be bigger. We're going to follow more than just Rand. It's not just Rand's story. This is the Wheel of Time's story. And I thought that was brilliant, utterly brilliant, and it changes the vibe of the whole series. So it's definitely worthy of A list. Is it worthy of S tier? Is it in the top Wheel of Time books? I'm going to say not quite. What it accomplishes there is brilliant. I love the things that are going on with Perrin, with Rand, especially with how distant we are from him suddenly. But just a few things didn't quite vibe with me, and Rand's one of my favorite characters, so while it is really cool seeing these changes happen with him, it does take a little bit of a knockdown for not having him around so much. I mean, I don't want to get a beer with Rand. I actually think he kind of sucks as a person, but as a character, he's awesome. So, I don't know. I'm conflicted. To me, it's borderline S tier. It's balanced between A and S, but because I want the barrier for S to be so hard, we're going to go ahead and put it in the A tier. And we're going to have the first three books, all A tier Wheel of Time. And then we got book 4. The Shadow Rising, to me, is one of the best fantasy books ever written, and that should tell you where I'm going to put it. Not only is it, in my opinion, where the Wheel of Time transcends just being great fantasy, which it was to this point, but really enters in the realm of being the Wheel of Time, the absolute king, in my opinion. This was an incredible book that opens the world to be so much larger than it already was, and because we're so solid in the building Robert Jordan had done to this point, all these new things he's throwing at us, to me, work and make sense, so I'm putting this solidly S tier. I think The Shadow Rising was beautiful, brilliant. Then we have The Fires of Heaven. Interesting turns for Rand. He's becoming an adult in a lot of ways. fighting against these nobles, being very next level Rand. This is one of his big turns as a character. We also, of course, get a lot of iconic scenes. There will be spoilers in this video from here on out, so if you're spoiler sensitive, leave. So there's also the ever so climactic ending here. We lose a character that we love, and it was well handled. It's really, really, really well handled. But I don't think the Fires of Heaven is quite as good as the Shadow Rising. It's another one of these for me that's kind of hovering. Some of the relationship stuff here, the early relationship stuff, just didn't vibe with me 100%. So I'm dropping it A tier. Still great Wheel of Time. Still some of the best. But it's just not there. Then we're going to have probably the most controversial pick. So the Lord of Chaos has one of the best scenes in the Wheel of Time. It has some of the best scenes with Rand and him in the box in the Wheel of Time. But a lot of the things outside of that I find to be the tower ramifications at this point seem to be in a hovering phase. I don't know. I really liked a lot of the maneuvering and political stuff, but I don't think it's S tier. After my most recent reread, I think there are scenes and everything that happens with Rand and Dumai's Wells is S tier quality. It's now raining really heavily outside, but I don't think it earns the whole story being S tier, because there's just some things that happen that make me groan at times. So I'm going to go ahead and say it's definite A tier, bordering S tier at times, but it just lands A. The Gwen Gawain stuff, some of the tower stuff, I don't know. It just wasn't my favorite there for a few reasons. Definite S tier material at times, but that's it. Now we have Crown of Swords. Some of the best Nynaeve work, hands down. A really good progression for the series, but we all know we're approaching the slog. We're certainly not there, and for time's sake, without getting much deeper into it, I'm going to go ahead and say Crown of Swords goes ahead for A tier. Beautiful matte stuff. Some of the best matte of the whole series happens here, and that I would all consider S tier. But there's also some things that drag it down to B. We all know about the weird sexual assaulty things that are not framed in the best way, in my opinion here. I don't like those a whole lot when they were framed, and that stuff drags down to almost B. But no, we're going to have it again in the A tier. And now we're going to have some fall downs. Now we're going to have some slip-ups, is I guess the way we put it. I'm going to go ahead, and I don't think I need to explain myself a whole lot saying Path of Daggers is B tier. Again, has S tier moments, especially around Rand once again. But this is the first one where I think the tinges of the slog started to really show up, and everyone starts getting frustrated. You know what I mean? And I think without explaining much more, I can say once again, amazing moments. We can just say amazing moments in all of these books. Every Wheel of Time book has amazing moments. But Winter's Heart actually is going to fall down to C tier for me. And in the grand scope of the Wheel of Time, this one was where I was actually, times reading the book was rough. Actually, times where I was just like, oh my God, move on. You know what I mean? So this is the one for the first time for Wheel of Time that slips down even further. And then we have what I consider the worst Wheel of Time book and the official D tier here, Crossroads of Twilight. Incredible Perrin moments, again, but this is the first Wheel of Time book where I feel the incredible and great moments are actually outweighed by the boring, the schlog, the moments for me. And so that's still a good book. I want to make that clear because there's people who are mad. How can you put a Wheel of Time book D tier? The way this is built, there's going to be something in D tier because it's all within the scope of me ranking them. So I'm just saying that's the worst Wheel of Time. Definitely not my favorite. And actually, I think that's the way the slog goes. It starts still okay and then transcends and descends. And then we recover with the Knife of Dreams. I'm a big fan of the Knife of Dreams. I think it's Robert Jordan's last solo entry, and it was so nice that we got to see him return to form. I think Knife of Dreams not only is one of the most solid entry Wheel of Time books, but it's some of Jordan's best work, period. And I'm actually going to bring it up to this one for me is another tricky. My logical wants to put it in A, but my sentimental, this is Robert's last work, and he did such a good job. It was such a relief as fans that we got to see him return here. I'm going to put it S tier for that. Because to me, if he hadn't had this recovery and it had stayed at that lower quality and then Brandon came in and finished it as well as he does, that would have left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm glad that we saw Robert take the reins back, come back to form, and do such an amazing job. And now we have the first Brandon Robert collab. And I think overall Brandon did an amazing job as an author. I think he helmed the series and turned it in a direction it needed to go. Do I think it's A tier? No, because Brandon had not quite settled into the series yet, in my opinion. There are still signs of... It's the roughest in the transition, because it's the first one. And to me, Brandon's different hand than Robert's is the most clear here. So I'm putting this B. It's not bad. It's really good still. It's a good book, but I don't know. I just couldn't entirely forgive a couple of things here in terms of just definitely telling it's Brandon writing it, which is not a bad thing. Brandon's a fantastic writer, and I think he did the best job that any author out there could do aside from Robert Jordan finishing the series. But this is just the one where it's the most clear to me. And that is a negative. That is, okay, there's a difference. There's a transition. And the fact that he was trying to hide that, and this is where he failed the most, that marks it down. But next up, we have Towers of Midnight, which was a really great Wheel of Time book. I think this is the first instance where a single scene is so epic and so well done, it redeems all the negatives within the book. A lot happens here. This is one of the busiest Wheel of Time books, in my opinion. I think the worst sequence in it is Perrin's trial. I really did not like Perrin's trial. The dumbing down of Perrin, the really annoying, just everything that happens in that scene. But the redemption at the end, where he forges his new weapon, it's the cover of the book, he saves the White Cloaks, the trajectory of the White Cloaks now being someone who will be influenced by Perrin after this huge arc with them was stunning to me. And so we have one sequence to me that's honestly D tier. The trial for me is maybe some of the lowest of the Wheel of Time. I hate that trial. But also we have mad S tier with that scene in Perrin. And we also have fantastic Egwene scenes. We have great work with Rand. Rand's whole finding the Zen state here was spectacular. So for me, this one's going to go up in the S tier with a caveat that it's certainly the lowest of the S tier for one sequence, and one sequence only that drives me up the goddamn wall, and that's the trial. I almost want to drag it down to A just for that sequence, but I don't feel like it's fair for one sequence to drag down a whole book. So it's staying up there. And now we have the finale. The accumulation of so much. And I think as fans, when this came out, all of us didn't believe this could be wrapped up as well as it was. And if I was going purely off of the ridiculous talent it takes to wrap up the Wheel of Time, S tier, because it was done better than I thought possible going in. I don't know if I've said this before on my channel. Before I read the final book, I was convinced the final book would be only good because I didn't think an author could tie things up as well as Brandon did. And that, for me alone, might push it to S tier. The handling of the last battle, which is without question, in my experience with fantasy, the largest battle to happen in fantasy, was really spectacular for the genre. I'm just going to go ahead and say it did earn it. I'm going to put it in S tier as well, and it's better than Towers of Midnight for me. So it earns S tier. There's a couple things, obviously, Fane's death. No one likes that, which I guess there's another caveat on this one, that there's something that drives me nuts. No one likes Fane's closure, but it earns the S tier. It earns where the S tier should be, just because of, holy moly, how did you do that? That's so damn impressive. You know what I mean? And now we have one that I threw in here for more just fun. I was putting together all 14 books, and I decided, hey, we definitely need to come in and do New Spring, the novel, the prequel to the Wheel of Time series, where we're following Moraine and Land. And this one's actually, in my opinion, the most difficult to put, because if this, follow me here, if this did not have the Wheel of Time with it, would still be a great fantasy book, but it's elevated by its association with the Wheel of Time, because setting up Moraine and Land as well as it does, giving you the backstory on so much that happens here, it elevates the Wheel of Time itself, and the Wheel of Time then in turn elevates New Spring. Should I take that into consideration? Because this is a ranking of the Wheel of Time, I think yes. And it's such a good novel on its own. It's really elevated by the source material and elevates the source material. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the B tier. Good. It's not on par with the best of the Wheel of Time, though. I said it's great fantasy. It's not great Wheel of Time fantasy, though. So for me, it's B tier. It's definitely worth reading. It's really spectacular for the Wheel of Time, and I'm more than thrilled that that book exists just as a Wheel of Time fan. When I found out New Spring was a thing, I was over the moon. And people keep asking me, when should you read New Spring? My answer to that is right after Fires of Heaven. That's where it should go. So I'd love to see what you all think of my list. I am sure there are controversial picks here, and some people are going to reorder this drastically. And I'd love to see it. I want to see what your all's lists are. So make your own rankings, S to D. Leave them in the comments section down below. Go ahead and shoot them at me, at Twitter if you want to. Links all the way to my social media down below. And I'm very interested to see what you all think. Obviously, mine's top heavy. I'm a huge Wheel of Time nerd. I got a soft spot for a lot of these books in my heart. So mine's pretty top heavy here. I only got 2 in the bottom 2. But this is fun to do. I like this. I didn't prepare at all. I just kind of sat down. I had a beer. I sat down and I ranked the Wheel of Time books and just let my thoughts spill. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you have not already. And hit the Patreon if you want to see more of these ranking videos in the future. Actually, that's going to be the final comment question here. What rankings do you want to see me do next? You want to see me rank every fantasy series I've read? I will do that for you. This was a lot of fun. Anyway, guys, have a good one. Let me know your Wheel of Time rankings down below and what I should rank next. Peace. Special shout out to 3 new, oh my god, high tier patrons. No, wait, 4. Jesus. Okay, so we got Jay Redfield. Thank you, Jay. Big Man Geek, fantastic name. BV Angel, thank you so much. And Michael Ram. I appreciate the support, you all. You have no idea how much it means to me. And I promise you more and more effort will be going into this in the future. I love you all. Peace.